Hey everyone, we just came back from SuccessConnect in Rome, the SuccessFactors user group, and Simone had an exclusive interview with Ettling, SuccessFactors President. My name is Rhonda Stockton, and this is the SuccessFactors Show.
Thank you, Mike, for being part of the SuccessFactors Show. I wanted for a long time to have you here, and we are at SuccessConnect in Rome. Thank you for your time. I have 3 questions for you. The first one is about HR transformation and the fact that now the HR is not just for the self-service and everything related to the employee, but how the employee relates to the final results of the client with the cascading of the goals and all of that. Is this happening in your opinion, and how the cloud and SuccessFactors helps clients doing that?
Yeah, look, I think what we're seeing in HR today is massive transformation in the HR space, and everyone is chasing this holy grail of achieving all-in employees. People use the word engagement, I use the word all-in.
Yeah.
And if you can get your employees to be all-in, it's really key to driving value and to driving performance in the business. To do that, you need to really engage your people in terms of how they operate and how they work in their daily environment. And what we're seeing is this really interesting phenomena where people come to work and they feel they go backwards in technology from what they're using at home.
Exactly.
And what we're all about with our HR solutions in SuccessFactors is creating that user experience where people come to work and say, wow, I'm not going backwards.
I've got the same cool toys that I have at home.
I've got the same cool toys, I engage easily, and that we think is having a dramatic impact in terms of how you engage people. And companies sometimes say to me, well, do we have to do this? And my answer is very simple. You've got 5 generations in your workforce today. And if you don't do this, you're going to lose half your generations, because that's how they operate today in their lives. And you've got to take that into account.
So it must be easy enough for the older generation to understand it and use it easily, but cool enough for the younger generation.
Exactly. I always say you've got to convince and engage your millennials. You can always tell the baby boomers what to do.
Exactly. Yes, according to Gartner reports, of all the platforms, besides SuccessFactors being the number 1, is the only one that allows extensions. So explain a little bit more about extension. We actually, as Allos launched today, the Learning Planner 360, one of the extensions for SuccessFactors. So the difference between customization and configuration, and how this extension allows the freedom to apply all those features that the clients want, and they are scared that now with configuration they're not allowed to do anymore.
Yeah. So this is a really hot topic, because the whole purpose of moving to the cloud, we in HR have been guilty for many years of never having standards. So HR, unlike accountants, they've got GARP, IT has got ITIL. HR has never had standards. So we have created the biggest spaghetti on the planet when it comes to HR processes and technology. The cloud offers a catalyst to standardize and simplify. So if you simply take everything you've got on premise and try and redeploy it in the cloud, there's no point doing it.
And usually one of the reasons you want to change is because your solution didn't work in the first place. So you're sitting with a white elephant and you want to create another white elephant?
Because you're not going to get the benefit of standardizing and simplifying. So let's start with that principle. Move to the cloud to simplify and standardize. In doing that, most cloud solutions like ours will let you probably configure 80% of what you need.
Yeah.
You're going to have to change processes. You need to move to standardized best practice.
But it's for the better.
Process. But it's for the better. And let's say that covers 80%. Then you get into the world of extensions. And we call it extensions because we believe the word customization is a swear word. And we want to differentiate, simply building bespoke to extending. And we have 2 ways of enabling extensions. One is what we call object extension, and the other is what we call application extension. And the object extension is the MDF framework, the metadata framework, which is inside the solution. And it allows you to set up unique fields, the way objects work, the way business rules work, and you can extend that and create that extensibility all in the solution, all easy to operate, through the extensibility dashboards. That will probably get you to, maybe 90% of what you need to cover. And then for those areas which are perhaps, when we see it used in different ways, so some clients will have something very unique which they believe is differentiating. So for example, Disney wants to do performance management in a very special way which they believe differentiates them against other operators in the same field. So they build a HANA Cloud Platform extension app to do that in a specific way. Another way is there may be something very specific to an industry, so health and safety in mining, where we're not going to build it, but there's a need for it across companies, and you can build an extension app. So we see HANA Cloud Platform extensions being built by partners and by clients themselves. Yep. Sometimes they're made available to the broader community of users. Sometimes companies keep it for themselves because they feel it's competitive.
It's just for them, yeah.
So the bottom line is that we don't believe, if you have the right approach to why you want to do this, that with our extensibility, you can't get to an outcome which is great for your company. However, extensibility is not the tool to simply go rebuild all the legacy
otherwise,
in the cloud. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose.
You go back to square one.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Totally agree. Another question talking about cloud is we did a SuccessFactors Show episode 6 months ago about moving HR in the cloud. In 6 months in this world, a lot changes. Where are we there? I mean, I saw in the client less fear now. They understand that it's not about if they want to move in the cloud. Now I talk about when they move into the cloud. Is this happening around the world?
Totally agree. I mean, the rhetoric and the discussion when I meet clients now is no longer about are we going to do this? It's about how do we do it, and when do we do it, and which way do we choreograph the transformation. Whatever data statistics you look at, Gartner, IDC, 60 to 80% of HR functions are moving to the cloud. In 3-4 years' time, HR will be in the cloud. HR is the biggest adopter of cloud solutions out of any back office function in business. And why? Comes back to that issue of standardization. There's never been standards in HR. So now there's a catalyst to drive the standards. So we're seeing a huge momentum in terms of moving to the cloud all across the globe. This is not unique to specific markets or region. Even markets which were very on-premise, like Germany, are now heavily moving into the cloud. And all the issues and objections people tend to throw out there, I think are all FUD at the end of the day. Things like data privacy, data protection, because all of our clients are dealing with that, and we're providing the environment which actually caters for all that legislation, whether you're a European company, an Asian company, an African company, or a South American company.
But if pharmaceuticals and banks are in the system, that's already a proof that...
And we have some of the world's biggest banks running on our solutions.
Exactly. But I think that one of the messages that they are not directly intuitive in cloud for clients is the fact that it's not that instead of going into an IP inside the firewall, now it goes outside. That's not the difference. The thing is completely different. The benefit that you have going into the cloud is so massively bigger than on-prem that it's not just a change of IP. That's the thing. I think it doesn't get across so easily.
And I think where IT functions fall down in the way they think about cloud is that they think about cloud as a different deployment methodology, and it's not. It's a different business model. It's a different way of doing business and operating. So if you're purely thinking, I've got this on-premise, should I deploy it in the cloud? That's not really the way to think about it, because we've been there already. That was IT outsourcing.
Exactly.
And application management outsourcing. I'll just give it to someone to manage. Kind of a private cloud model.
ASP or whatever they call it.
Public cloud is a different business model, has different benefits. One of the really powerful things we see our customers really excited about is the community effect.
Exactly.
When you've got 5,000 customers all engaged in a community,
with
and ours is digital, we've got 35,000 registered users from our 5,000 customers interacting on the community, that sharing of knowledge and sharing of best practice and ideas is phenomenal. And that is one of the massive benefits of the cloud, which is social. It's not a technology deployment.
But that influenced the roadmap, which is great.
Which it does. It drives 80% of what we put in the roadmap comes through those type of forums.
Yeah, thank you. And the last one, and I know that is dear to both of us, Africa. I mean, there's a large investment being done by SAP in Africa. What is the roadmap for that, and how do you see? There's rumors that the economy is going a little bit slower. Nigeria overtook South Africa, but they're still growing very fast. I live most of my life in South Africa, so it's much faster than in Europe by far. What is your vision?
So let me talk about this as if we haven't grown up in South Africa. Still supporting the green, blood still runs green after all these years. The thing which I think is really interesting is that I think there's a huge opportunity for cloud to drive GDP growth in Africa. And the reason I say that is because I think there's a very similar parallel to the mobile industry. There was no legacy of copper wire in Africa. Mobile came along and we just saw tremendous leapfrog, tremendous innovation around how mobile enabled people who had no communications before.
Adoption of the latest technology.
Technology, business, access to the web, all those fantastic things. I think cloud in the business space is going to give the same opportunity. So, why would an entrepreneur starting up in Nairobi want to buy a server and figure out how to deploy software and install software, be it accounting software or HR software, when he can log on, go onto the cloud, buy it, and he can get the best practice, on a global basis right there in downtown Nairobi? Why do on-premise? So I think Africa will leapfrog on-premise. I think the interesting challenge for South Africa is that I think South Africa is at risk of falling behind the opportunity because there's a big on-premise culture in South Africa, which kind of grew out of the sanction era, where we couldn't get help from anyone, so we were innovative. We had to figure out how to do it ourselves. Yeah. But the rest of Africa doesn't have that. So we're seeing this willingness to accept the cloud as being greater in Africa, and South Africa being slow to catch up. So my message to South Africa is that get in the clouds quickly. Accelerate, because I think South Africa is at risk of falling behind, and that adoption of cloud is going to drive innovation. It's going to drive startups. It's going to drive GDP growth in the different markets.
Absolutely. I worked in other developing countries, and I think that where the common ground is that there is a need for skills, so what is much more benefit for SuccessFactors to adopt SuccessFactors. But also something specific of Africa, I think, is the hunger for training. These people, they want to train, they like to be trained, they like to learn. When I get interviews for my company, they ask me, I want to learn more. You don't get that often in the old world. So I think that the adoption of the cloud will get a fertile ground if it gets applied and adopted.
Absolutely. And I think the beauty we can bring with our learning solutions in particular, and you guys have a deep legacy and experience with learning. I think in Africa, one of the keys to upliftment, and particularly to eliminating poverty, is education.
Number one for me. Number one, absolutely.
And people fundamentally believe that and recognize that getting educated and learning is a way to get out. And that's why SAP has invested millions in our code weeks and our code jam and training developers in Africa. And I think our solutions bring the same opportunity for companies in Africa to really drive learning on a massive scale, because you can't do it in classrooms anymore. And the classroom infrastructure is ailing and dilapidated in many countries. But people all have mobile phones, and they all have access through GSM to networks. So you can do it through those channels, and that's where I think there's a very big social opportunity for what we can do with our technology in Africa.
It's coming. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
What an awesome interview. We had dinner with Mike afterwards, and it was again impressed upon me what an inspirational leader he is. Well, thank you for watching, and remember to share and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you soon.